Welcome back to Hall of Fame College Football. I'm your host, Jason Watkins. I'm here with my special guest from Coaches Talk, Coach Ricks. If you guys are not already subscribed to his channel, you got to make sure you get over there. Great Oklahoma content. He's one of the newest content creators on the Oklahoma side, talks college football around the country, kind of similar to how we do things. But I mean, I got to know Coach. He was always on my live streams. We talked a lot. He did some call-ins, and then I started watching his show. Loved talking with him, and I've been enjoying it ever since. Really appreciate you coming in. Hey, Coach, obviously we got week one of Oklahoma football, 51-3 win over Temple. And, folks, I got to tell you, I know everybody is just really, the sky is falling on your 51-3 win over Temple from the other day. The littlest things in the world has everybody freaked out. I don't know how we're going to live in the SEC after that 51-3 win over the Temple Owls in game one. Coach, are you as freaked out as everybody else?
No, I don't
Really?
get worried. I don't get worried about that kind of stuff, man. I think that being a football coach and everything, man, you learn to hear one thing and it's just, you got to block it out and everything, man, because it will start to make you change how you run your program and do things. So I think that BV, he hears it, but at the same point in time, it's not going to affect how he does things. It's not going to affect how the team is going to perform. I mean, if we're going to try to sit here and
you want to talk about a consistent person and focused person, man. That's
I mean,
Venables, right?
let's look at the positives. There are way more positive than there are negatives when it comes to this game. I mean, and injuries tend to happen, and once injuries happen, then we got to start plugging in, plugging out. So I think that the sky's not falling. I think everybody just has an expectation of what they want their team to do and how they want to play.
Sure.
It's fine, man.
Let's talk about.
I'm gonna look up. It's not falling. It's not falling.
Yeah, it's not falling yet, right? It's not falling yet. So we're gonna keep our eye on that, folks. But I did want to talk to you guys about some of this stuff. Obviously, we're here on Sunday. We're getting ready to watch the final day of college football. What a great week, by the way. Started off on Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and now Thursday night.
Yeah,
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We got obviously Tebow, Lincoln Riley, and the USC Trojans taking on LSU this evening as well. Look, guys, the reason I wanted to kind of come in here and talk about this, I mean, Coach Roybal and I did a post-game show the other night, and there wasn't as much of it going on during the live, but I've been inundated with these crazy, some pretty wild comments, and I don't generally get too worried about that. But I do want to address some of this stuff. And I think just for the simple fact of, look, I think I know what it is. And you just kind of alluded to it a little bit, Coach. But let's talk about some of the concerns that you have. First and foremost, they talked about the offensive line at times. Then they talked about some things with the running game, which also kind of goes to the offensive line. Then there's been some concerns, these are the weird ones to me, with Jackson Arnold, in reference to not being the starter, which is really crazy to me. And then there's been some concerns about what you may or may not be defensively, which I don't understand either. When they actually listen, let's just recap this: 51-3, 6 turnovers forced. I mean, the game was out of reach,
total yards,
basically with 8 minutes. Yeah, listen, with 8 minutes left in the first quarter, the game was not in reach.
It's over.
First touchdown, they really wasn't in reach because it was 3 points they gave up.
Yeah.
Let's just talk about this, though. I think one of the biggest things that you're hearing, and this is, I'll just kind of go through here. These are some of the things that people have said, just a couple, and I'm not going to say who they are, and I don't want to call people out. Watching the O-line get 0 push against Temple was disheartening. I think the concern there was this was obviously after you had an injury on the O-line to your starting center, Branson Hickman, who beat out Joshua Bates for it. Now, I would tell you that Joshua Bates, he was in there some, but he didn't really get in there much. And he would be your backup center first off. He would always be your backup center in normal situations once you get to SEC play. I believe that's the case. You had Fabici Wewu stays at right guard, or maybe he moved to – no, he stayed at right guard. But what you had was, because of the fact that you had already Jake Taylor nicked up a little bit, nothing serious. They just held him out of the game. Now you have Spencer Brown playing. He's the third string, more or less, right tackle. He moves up, has to play right tackle as, a starter. He kind of got exposed there a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't think it's much about that he can't push. It was that his speed wasn't there. So it definitely put Jackson Arnold in some positions where he had to get rid of the ball quickly. Now, then you have Garen Hatchett playing center, which I doubt that's an emergency center if you ever had one, and he was playing it the other day a lot. Not a terrible thing, because he's not going to probably be your starting guard, I don't believe there. He's going to be – no, probably not, because you've got – the way that they had it set up as of right now, it was going to be the left tackle would have been Michael Tarquin. Sexton moves into left guard. Then, of course, you would have Branson Hickman at center.
Yep.
The right guard is Fabici Wewu. And then if from what we could tell, Jake Taylor being the right tackle.
Yeah.
Right? Now, Taylor could always move into the guard position if he needed to. Sexton is actually probably the best tackle you have, but he's also very good as a guard and can help you out in a lot of ways that way. We've heard that a lot, right?
Yeah.
Sexton's been that guy. He's the next first rounder probably off of the Bill Beatonbowl line. The point I'm trying to make here, folks, the big concern that everybody's having is they didn't have a lot of push, and it was against Temple. Okay. I don't know that I agree that they didn't have a lot of push. I don't want to see Spencer Brown at right tackle any more than any of you do. I don't think you probably will anymore.
No.
I think that was it. Here's what I really think, though. First off, you got to remember going back that when Farouk got hurt, they threw one more deep ball, real deep ball, and that was to J.J. Hester. It was on the money. He dropped it. Coach Venables said in the presser that he said that, nope, we don't need no more. And Jay was talking about that on his show yesterday on Unfair Sports. This kind of bothered Jay a little bit, apparently. It was more or less a dress rehearsal for this offense, and they wanted to show nothing. Now, look, coaches do things different ways, and I understand what some people are talking about. You always get a lot of people that are upset about Bill Beatonbowl taking 3 or 4 games before you really have your rotation of what you like on your offensive line. I get it. You know what? It works. And the truth be told, what did you need to do with Temple? Now, I know you said you didn't have a lot you were worried about. There were some things that you saw, though, right there. But in the end, here's the thing, guys. They were up, what? So it was 17-0 at the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
It immediately went to 20-27 in the second.
A matter of a few minutes.
I mean, yeah, it was really never in. And by the time that you had your center hurt and they started moving all that around, they knew it was in hand. You're forcing turnovers, pretty much 4 first half turnovers, which turned into 2 field goals and 2 touchdowns. A lot of short fields.
Yeah.
And what we needed to see, I've watched the game 3 times, and I still don't know what people are saying, because one of the other things that we're hearing is that they just don't like how that Jackson Arnold isn't that guy. I don't know what that means.
They don't watch the game the way we watch the game, Jason. I mean, they look at it from a bigger brush, if you want to call it, a bigger picture, because when I coach or when any other coaches the ball game, I have to look at what the defense is doing. No one has said it yet, but I'm gonna say it. Out of that game, Temple knew they could not stop Oklahoma running the ball or passing the ball. They blitzed the A gap so many times trying to get to the quarterback. And yes, they gave up some things that they didn't want to give up, but they had to take that chance because there's no way they was going to stop Oklahoma from doing and running their offense. So if you got subs in the ball game and you got a backup center and a backup right tackle, you're going to blitz the end and you're going to blitz the A gap that is going to make the quarterback either roll to the left,
of course,
or it's going to make the quarterback get rid of the ball.
Got to go for the weak spot, right? I mean, that's no-brainer.
That's a good coach. So if I'm undermatched or if I'm overmatched,
junior high coach, it sounds like
I'm going to blitz the A gap and I'm going to blitz the end to force the quarterback to go the way I want him to go. That's how I read that ball game. Yeah, they blitzed the A gap almost every single time. That's why Jackson kept getting hit in the center. He kept getting hit in the middle of the pocket, not on the outside. So they blitzed the A gap almost every time. So they had to do something.
If you look at the ball that he delivered to Farouk. Now, obviously, that got Farouk hurt as well. So all of a sudden, they didn't want to like send a bunch of guys deep anymore.
Wow.
So it got very. If it wasn't already vanilla, which it was already vanilla. Yeah. If it wasn't already vanilla, it got even more vanilla because Farouk went down, broke his foot.
Yeah. We're not going to take no chances. Nobody else getting hurt.
At that moment, it was. He talked about it. We were already vanilla. We didn't want to get him. You know, we've now lost Jalil Farouk for 6 to 8 weeks, folks. This is not time for the sky is not falling. And I think there's a couple of things. You talked a little bit about it. We talked a little bit about it off air. I want to bring up a few points. There's been a few narratives that have been out there, and it's been going around for a while. And I think part of it has to do with the Texas stuff of everybody's loving on Texas.
Yeah,
we don't have to talk about them. But what I would tell you is that everybody's loving Texas, and there's these, quote, concerns. Now, Jay, I like it when Jay Smith says it on Unfair Sports. He says, I don't have concerns. I have questions because, yes, we're replacing basically our entire offensive line.
Yes.
They say it's 5 at the SEC level of the media, not in Norman. They're all saying 5 of 5. Mm-hmm. I guess technically speaking, it kind of is. But Sexton would have been a starter at any point had he not been hurt last year.
Yeah.
He was going to be a starter over a number of those guys. He started over the first rounder, Tyler Guyton, at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Who is the number 1 graded offensive lineman in the NFL right now. And number 2 is another Oklahoma guy who went in the 6th round as well. So, the point is that they're definitely making some moves around there. But they knew that there was zero. First off, they were blowing them out already. They're forcing turnovers.
You can take chances.
Let's be serious about this. One thing I want to make sure that we talk about is this. This defense is for real.
Oh,
I get it. Yes. This is Temple, and Temple wasn't very good.
I
don't care either. When you force 6 turnovers and you live in the backfield, folks, they had 6 sacks and 9 tackles for loss. That's essentially 15 tackles for loss in this game.
Yep.
That sped up very quickly. There was a lot of, they were trying to get it done and over with fast.
Yeah.
Running the clock. The clock runs anyway, but they weren't doing a lot of things that were going to force it, not calling timeouts, any of that kind of stuff. No. They're kicking field goals. But this defense showed its teeth yesterday, even just a little bit. And that was vanilla.
Oh, yeah.
Mind you, they were super vanilla there too. But if there's I had just my most recent comment on this video we're talking about is, big deal that they had, you want to talk about how great the defense is, but it was Temple. So that's not who you get to judge it on. Listen, buddy, you can judge it on who you judge it on because you get who you get in front of you. Do they need to do the same thing against everybody else? Sure. But here's the difference. They played 84 players yesterday on both sides of the ball. 84 players.
Yep.
What drop-off did you see anywhere aside from maybe offensive line because of what they did? Now, I would tell you that Spencer Brown will probably never be a right tackle again.
No.
I think that may have been playing possum a little bit just to make sure that you don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying this because I want Oklahoma fans to take a minute. Something that somebody said to me, one of the commenters that was, he's smart. He was talking about that he doesn't have social media because of all the bitching from Oklahoma fans. And he can't understand why all these whiny people are doing this. And my thing is this, folks, when you start having discussions about something like this,
be honest about
every time. Well, you need to be honest about it, but I've been using this word a lot lately, Coach. I want to see what you think about it. Context is important.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
With certain discussions, context is very, very important.
Yep.
Because if you just knee slap, knee jerk reaction on one little thing because it doesn't look perfect.
Yep.
First off, if they look perfect today, I would be more worried because that means that there's nowhere for them to improve, which means that, this is probably not where they need to be.
Yeah.
This football team, I would suspect, is going to be considerably better in week 4 than they were in week 1. They should be considerably better than that in week 6, 7, and 8 than they were in week 4. This is the way championship football teams are. They get better every week, and coaches are always looking for something to pick on too. The point I'm trying to make is context always matters, Coach.
Oh, yeah.
If you just say the offensive line didn't have any push, what are you missing?
That's it. I mean, that's all you can say if you're looking at it from the way you just.
Where's the context is missing from it? There's a lot from that. The offensive line didn't have any push. That scares the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Okay. Why didn't the offensive line have any push? And it wasn't that they didn't have any push.
That's the key word.
But why?
Yeah.
We just told you why.
Yep.
The lineup that they threw in there would not be your lineup. Garen Hatchett would not be your center.
No.
They didn't.
We've always known Bill to rotate his line the first few weeks anyway to try to get the perfect fit because we always try to say, let's try to catch them early or let's get this done before we play X, Y, and Z. Everybody does it. There's teams right now. Tennessee's doing it. Let's do whatever we can to get ready for Oklahoma. They're not worrying about their first 3 or 4 games. They know it's not going to be at the same caliber of Oklahoma. And Brent Venables won't say it.
They were vanilla yesterday too. It looked great. Yeah.
Basic. If you're not an X and O guy, and if you didn't see that, I don't know what's wrong with you. It's to give your fans something to cheer about and let them know this is what you're going to expect. I don't have no worries on the defense side. I don't have no worries whatsoever because that defense is only going to get better. Period. And I always tell people 4-3 is 4-3, 6'4" is 6'4". If you 6'4" and 220 pounds in the SEC, you 6'4", 220 pounds in the ACC. It don't matter. Physicality, it might be the only thing that might be a little bit different than the SEC and for what happened Friday. But it's not that far off, Jason. It's not that far off to where we should be concerned about the sky's falling. So-and-so can't do this. So-and-so can't do that. That's crazy.
No, I agree. And that's the thing. Again, context matters. Guys, if you just say that there's no push there, then you're not talking about the fact that you had a couple of other guys that were dinged up. They for precautionary reasons and because they knew they're not going to really get pushed, they didn't even make Jake Taylor available. They didn't make they took. I mean, I don't know that Hickman could have not continued playing. They didn't play him. You know, they did some things that they wouldn't have done because of the fact that they could. So you're not talking about that. So you're talking about the fact they didn't get pushed on that line. Then you're not talking about everything. You're talking about, okay, so then one of the other things that here's where, again, context matters. You start talking about, and this was the thing that I didn't understand. Defensively, we know they go out there and they forced 6 turnovers, man. They were in the backfield all day. Again, 15 tackles for losses, 15 tackles for loss, including 6 sacks, right? And 4 of the 6 were by different people.
Yeah.
You know,
the last 2 one. Billy dropped the one that the ground caused the fumble. I mean the ground caused the
I'm talking about the
incompletion.
sack or whatever, but yeah.
So there would have been another one.
We're talking, they're in their backfield all day. They're turning the ball over. Look, I understand it's Temple, but again, they're still doing that. You're not having a lot of drop off from one guy to two. I heard Teddy Lehman say that Michael Boganowski is the best safety he's ever seen. He's a freshman, a true freshman. And we're hearing things like that out of Teddy Lehman.
That hit, man. That hit he came down on when that one guy.
It sounded like a gun went off. It sounded
like a shotgun going off. And everybody in the fans, I think his dad had a Instagram picture of like, ooh, I mean, it's bad when people are taking videos of that man that hit as a freshman.
Yeah, I heard it. I'm on the second time watching it. Again, context matters, guys. These guys were doing their job. Now, you can say it was Temple, big deal that your defense dominated them. Okay, great. I get it. I agree. Arkansas State, same thing last year. The defense was a lot better before the injuries last year, but what we're seeing different is that they played 84 people 84 players the other day. And the majority of them were defensive players, and there wasn't a big drop-off. So we're not going to talk a ton about the defense because there's nothing really to talk about there. The next biggest thing, which is wild to me, once Farouk went down, Brent Venables said, we shut down deep balls. We weren't going to throw it deep. They threw one more deep ball. J.J. Hester dropped it. There were 4 drops on the day, by the way. 4 drops. Jackson Arnold finishes the day with 4 touchdown passes, 3 of them to Deion Burks. He threw one to Bauer Sharp as well. The first touchdown of the day was to Bauer Sharp. And then
3 to Burks.
3 to Burks, yeah. None of them were long touchdowns.
No.
Though, again, there was one more after the Farouk play, which was a 47-yard pass play.
Yep.
Only play. He got hurt on the play. They didn't go back to the deep ball until one more time with J.J. Hester. He drops it right in his hands. They go away from the deep balls. Completely.
Yeah.
Now, that's kind of understandable. Number one, you're lighting them up. Number one. But the big question that you're hearing, or the statements that I'm hearing in these comments, folks, what are we talking about when you're coming in saying that, I even hate to say this, Jackson Arnold isn't the guy?
I think that everybody has this fascination with what a quarter. I mean,
the backup quarterback is always the most popular dude in the room, right?
Well, we've all been spoiled, I think, as OU fans. I mean, because look at the last few quarterbacks that we've had. And I think that we try to compare quarterbacks by years. Like, he should be like so-and-so, or he should be like this person, or he should be like that person. I think he's what we need right now. I think he's doing an exceptional job. I mean, what are we comparing him to? To who? What's the standard? What are we comparing him to say he's not the one?
Well, that's kind of where we get into it. Again, context, folks. Context. And you have people that are saying, and I've literally, and I'm not going to say who you are because first of all, I don't really want to, I'm not going to necessarily call you out, but I'm kind of am. But I don't think that we do. Okay, 5 wins tops. Jackson Arnold is a complete bust. Brother.
I can tell you right now, man, that's not
the first thing I said to him, and I said this to him, and I'll say it here. Are you freaking serious? Are you freaking serious? Take it somewhere else because, listen, guys, this is where I would say again, context definitely matters. He had 4 touchdown passes. He was 17 to 25. If it weren't for 4 drops, he's 21 and 25. They had a short field all day, and they didn't go down the field when they weren't on a short field. They ran the football as much as they could. They had 200 rushing yards. Had people complaining about that. We didn't run the ball more. 19 runs. They only had 29 passes.
Man,
that is as balanced as I can remember at Oklahoma.
Jason, that game was to let's hurry up, and get through with this game, so we don't have no more injuries. Once Farouk got hurt, once Hickman got hurt, I'm being honest. As a coach, you tend to say, let's run the ball so the clock will continue to run.
Sure.
Let's try to get out of here without nobody else getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not blitz and do all that. Let's just try to keep it as basic as we can.
Let me
to
ask you a
get out of here.
question. Did you ever think that you were going to see Brennan Thompson near the line of scrimmage catching balls? Or
No.
I mean,
He's a non-route, deep post, deep backside post
yeah.
receiver. He's not
Yeah.
a
He's
not
a go
a
route.
CD. He's not a
He's a
CD
go route
Lamb.
post, deep post. Yeah.
He's not
yeah.
a Malcolm Kelly. He's not the tall physical guy that you want to run across
Over
the
the
middle, or
Yeah.
you want to run a dig route or an outside curl. You want
Shifty
him to run
kind of stuff where
a
you got to move.
non-route,
You know. Yeah, no.
a play action bootleg to the backside non-route or a deep post is what you run,
7-step
Brent.
drop.
That's
Yeah,
what he ran
roll
last
out.
year. He never ran nothing but a non-route or a deep post last year.
So all of a sudden, we're just completely changing up what we're going to do with a straight line runner. For, I mean, again, I would tell you that that's not a play you'll ever see with Brennan Thompson. People were talking about him dropping those 2 balls. You know why? He hasn't caught a ball at point blank range since he got to Oklahoma.
Well, let's just say what it is, Jason. Is anybody wondering why he was in the game yesterday anyway? Who was hurt?
Yeah.
Who didn't play? Nick Anderson did not play.
Okay, there's another one. Nick Anderson, and that was
if Nick would have been playing,
he can
Brandon
play
Thompson
probably
ain't in there.
Week. It was a precaution thing there too. Again, this was not a game that they were concerned with. What they saw from Jackson is what they wanted to see. I can promise you there is not a quarterback controversy. No. I would tell you all day long that if anything were to happen to Jackson Arnold, I am not worried about Michael Hawkins coming in and because he might be that dude. And you know what? Some of you folks said one of the other things, and again, I just want to stay on this part because this is the crazy one to me. Hawkins is a better quarterback. It's obvious. They'll ride Arnold to a 7-win season at best. It's the way things are done. J.A. couldn't hold Mayfield's jockstrap. All right.
Folks. Hold on. Before you start. All right.
Please do.
We all know, we all think Baker is the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have Baker as the standard.
Top 2 or 3 in Oklahoma history.
All right. Now, who's better, him or Kyler?
I think it depends on who you ask.
Exactly.
But, yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, let's stop trying to compare Jackson and Michael. Michael's going to have his time. I think he's not ready yet, but I think that we're doing a good thing by running the same offense when he comes in. We're not trying to just turn around and hand the ball off to somebody. We're letting him run the offense because I think we learned last year, we kind of handicapped Jackson Arnold last year when he came in some of these ball games.
He played in 7 games.
But Tulsa was the only game he really came in and just threw the ball all around the field and found Nick Anderson, But I mean, like meaningful calls, like let's not change the playbook. Let's not. We know that Jackson can run the full playbook, but let's just let Michael run 9 or 10 plays and then hand the ball off. We're going to still open the playbook up for Michael.
What did you also hear from Brent Venables? We feel like we need to play him. We need to have both of them ready to play this year.
Yes.
You know why? Because injuries do happen.
So
just in case you want him in. And you know what? I'll tell you another thing. Casey Thompson is also a guy that look, this is a guy.
He's one, Jason, that you need to see. He's one that you don't need to see because
you don't need to see him. No, you don't need. Right. He's got experience of this is his 7th year in college football. So they're not worried about Casey. I think that if it comes down to it and they had to play Casey, they wouldn't worry. There's a reason that they brought him. The point that I'm trying to make is this. Jackson Arnold's not the man. Game 2 will prove it. He has the arm, but not the mental ability. Okay, guys, this is ridiculous.
What?
There's 3 different things. That's just 3 of them. I'm not going to go any further because it's insanity to me. One of them that I really liked, here's one that I liked. It's hilarious how everyone was expecting perfection first week of the season. They literally ran vanilla offense and defense. It's going to be a long season with the amount of bitching after a 51-3 week 1. Y'all better buckle up. Doubt most of you will make it. Not every down possession or series is going to be perfect. Stan J. Ross, you are the man. They have film and everything. You whiny ass bees are crying about, and it can be corrected. I expect BV and Co will drill it in, and all three phases will be better every week. This is exactly where we talk about context again, guys.
Yep.
Here's what I would tell you, and this is where this is. Here's what I think, Coach. This is what the problem is really when you look at it. Can you read that?
PTSD.
PTSD.
Post-traumatic.
Oklahoma has there's a segment of Oklahoma fans because they struggle with context first and foremost, because we just talked about context.
Yeah.
But the reason they do is there's a level of PTSD that set in over the last decade.
Yeah.
The last decade has been a race to 50.
Yeah.
It's been a race to 50. Whoever gets to 51st is going to win pretty much every game they play in. Now, why do I always say, and guys, if you watch this show, how many times have you heard me say, I am not worried about this offense at all?
No.
I think that they could be top 30 in the country and they could win the national championship if this defense is what it looked like the other day with top 30. This is just facts. There's a segment of this fan base, though, that truly believes you still have to win that race to 50. When I was a sports writer and covering Tech, you would hear this stuff a lot. They're just like that still. They compare every quarterback and every team offensively to Patrick Mahomes, or back in the day when they had, Michael Crabtree and, this is how it is. But and I believe that this is what happened here. Because of the fact that Lincoln Riley, it got even worse and worse defensively during his tenure, which was 5 years.
Yep.
You were falling off a bit defensively once Venables left. You're talking about a time period where now you have to depend solely on it. I would tell you this. It's not fair to make a comparison from Jackson Arnold to Baker Mayfield, or to Kyler Murray, or to Sam Bradford, or to Caleb Williams even.
Yeah.
Now, I get it that he's a 5-star plus, National Player of the Year, Elite 11 winner. So there's an inclination that this is who we got.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you this. This is not the right thing to do that, because here's the thing. We talked about this a little earlier. There might be, aside from Baker, comparable college football quarterbacks since Baker Mayfield. I'm thinking 3, 4. Joe Burrow, obviously Kyler, Caleb Williams, and maybe CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud is a stretch for me. He's a stretch for me. And I like CJ Stroud, don't get me wrong. He's a stretch. Baker Mayfield walked on twice in a Power 5 program, one of them being a blue blood, and took over the job from a sitting starter his second time when he got to Oklahoma, and became a 3-time top 5 Heisman finalist, winning it his senior season and going number 1 in the draft as a 2-time walk-on. Those guys don't walk through the door every year, folks.
Nope.
Neither do the Sam Bradfords. How many times have you heard of somebody winning every high school game from 8th grade on that they ever played in? You know what? One time, Kyler Murray. That's it.
That's it.
How many guys have you heard of and watched that were better than Caleb Williams? I don't know that any of them were. Right?
Well,
we can talk about that all day, but the point is, these guys don't walk in here every day. So here's where I'm saying, folks, here's the difference, though. The PTSD comes in here. If you think about it, I'm not one that has those expectations of having a Baker Mayfield. In fact, I think that's a ton to throw on somebody's shoulders.
Yeah, that's too much.
They don't come along all the time, but Baker had to be at his absolute best every week for Oklahoma to compete at the level that they did, for them to get to the playoff, for them to win those conference championships, for them to have an opportunity that probably his senior year they should have won it. We talked about that a bunch of Oklahoma fans. They should have won it, but they didn't. In the end, he had to play at his absolute best.
Yeah.
Now, what if Lincoln Riley, love me some Lincoln Riley, what if Lincoln Riley had a clue about building a defense, or even just doing something as simple as, you know what, we're going to try to put our defense in an advantageous position twice a half to save them 2 possessions against this offense. So now instead of it being a race to 50, if you 35. Have a defense that can even hold to 30, 28, 30 points a game, now you don't have to get to 50. So you don't have to be perfect if you're Baker or you're Kyler or you're Caleb Williams. People are so used to that race to 50, right?
Yeah.
When the truth is, if the defense was just giving up 28 to 30 points and you didn't have to get there, then you don't have to be perfect like Baker's had to be during those years, or Kyler had to be, or Caleb Williams had to be.
Yeah.
You know, Oklahoma fans, their PTSD comes from that, though. This is what I would tell you. And I think this is what's going on right now, folks. I would tell you that a lot of what we're talking about at this moment right now is things that really don't matter. No. We're splitting hairs on Jackson Arnold and expecting him to be Baker Mayfield as a year 1 starter in game 1. First off, that's a lot. It took Baker until his 3rd season as a starter at Oklahoma to be a number 1 pick worthy Heisman Trophy winner. Elite. It took him that long. He wasn't perfect. He never was perfect. So that's a lot to ask, number 1. Number 2, Baker never had a defense like what Jackson's got on the other side of the ball. And Jackson knows this too. This is why you're not going to see him making – I don't expect that you end up seeing him making a lot of stupid mistakes. Now, he may go through some growing pains at times this year, but guess what? You can afford it because I think as long as, you heard Teddy say this, as long as you only have 10 or less interceptions, you're probably going to be good to go. Why? Because this is likely a top 10 or 15 or maybe better defense in the country. And if that's the case, and let's say you only give up 20 points, now a top 30 offense is more than enough as long as you're not turning it over and putting your team in a bad position. We saw the other day that he wasn't putting the ball in harm's way. Folks, they're going to get better, but here's where this PTSD comes in. I think that people are they remember a lot easier those 50 to 49 wins over West Virginia. Or Kansas State or TCU or Baylor. More
shootouts.
The shootout wins. They remember those a lot more than they remember 13-2 against FSU. Even though the game that they had 13 points gave them the grandest prize in college football. And the years that they averaged 50 points or close to 50 points, they turned into 4 losses in the first round of the college football playoff.
Well, you got to be careful what you ask for, because we sit there and say we want that back, but now the narrative back then was, well, we don't have a defense. Now you got a defense. Now you want the offense to do something that is always done. I've never had, even people, I'm on the East Coast, nobody ever worries about Oklahoma scoring points. The national narrative
you
of
could afford to go down to, listen, if you can afford to go down to 24, 28 points probably if you're holding people to under 20. Folks, this is probably the kind, I would tell you this. I think that a lot of people, some OU fans are going to have a hard time understanding this until Brent Venables brings them a national championship doing it this way again, right? Because the fact is they can remember those games more than they remember 13-2 or 16-13 like we saw in 2004 against Vince Young and Obviously with AD against Vince Young and those guys, right?
Yeah.
Sam Bradford. So those are the games that we don't really remember those as much. Those games happened, and those were the years that they were at their best.
Yes.
But it's hard to remember that. And here's the thing, folks. It's crazy to think of sometimes, but I've been having these conversations now as a content creator covering college football at Oklahoma for this was the third year. Literally, they had a 51-3 win over Temple. They did what they should do against Temple. The numbers aren't gaudy, and we're concerned. And we're saying that Jackson doesn't have the head, or he's got an arm, but he's not that dude. He hasn't proven that he's that guy yet. And you know what? There's a chance that Michael Hawkins could be better. You know what Michael Hawkins did the other day? Michael Hawkins was 2 of 4 passing, no touchdowns, less yards per play. He didn't go downfield either. He ran the ball a couple of times. Look, we don't know what he is yet either. I think that talent-wise, he could be better than Jackson. It's not his turn yet. I would also tell you that in view of the fact that we see Jaden Jackson and a bunch of these guys that are in that secondary room playing as freshmen, that if they really believed that Michael was the guy right now, he'd be the starter. Not Jackson.
Yeah.
Folks, Oklahoma is in a better position today, right now, to win a national championship than they've been in over a decade. That's a fact. It is an absolute fact.
We don't need 50 points. I'm being honest.
No,
as long as
you don't need 40. Probably you don't need 40.
All those championships that Clemson had when Brent was there as defensive coordinator, Clemson wasn't scoring in the 50s. They were scoring in the 30s. They were scoring sometimes in the 40s. But they didn't need to.
They had great quarterbacks too.
Yeah, they didn't
put up the numbers that Baker and those guys did.
But you never heard their fan base complain about the offense. Right. We had an offensive coach, and we saw, and we know what that looks like. Now we got a defensive coach, and I think people don't know what that looks like because Georgia fans know what it looks like. Correct. Alabama fans know what it looks like. So the thing has always been Oklahoma can't play defense. Now
that's what has been keeping everybody.
Yeah.
Look, when you again, I think it's first off, it's unfair to Jackson to do that. And you know what? I know he's trying to stay off of social media, but you don't think that he knows what's being said?
Oh yeah.
What's the matter with you folks? Stop it. Knock it off. It's ridiculous. And again, I'm going to use that word one more time. Context, folks. Use some context. It's
the way you say things. You can say it in a different way.
Look, I think
a different way.
Everything, they're going to be really good when all is said and done, folks. They really are. Because here's the thing. Jackson doesn't need to win a Heisman Trophy and be Baker Mayfield for them to win a national championship. Baker Mayfield had to be exactly what he was Superman. To win one or have a chance to win one, and they never did. So, folks, bottom line is, I think that there's some things that are happening here that we haven't seen in a really long time. Defensively, especially. We haven't seen it in a ton of time. And I get it that PTSD is still holding you back. But, folks, think about it deeper than one level for a little while, and it'll come back to you. And I know not this isn't for everybody in my audience, because the folks that are in my lives, I know you guys know. But it's the folks that are in here that aren't always in my lives that are killing me here. And I'm going to tell you, you got to look at the whole picture. You got to look at the whole picture. Stan J. Ross said that. It's crazy to think of, but I'm going to tell you again, they're in a better position to win a Natty today than they have ever been in the last 10 years. I promise you that. And they don't.
You can look at. You can ask everyone
that. You don't.
You can ask.
Yeah, listen. You don't have to have a Heisman Trophy winner to win that national championship. In fact, I would tell you, if you have Trevor Knight level play at quarterback, that's a little far down I love Trevor and all.
Yeah,
but he's not those other guys. If you had him protecting the football, playing about as well as he can play, That's plenty to win a natty with this defense as
Oh yeah.
it is. Do I think that and I can promise you that I think both of these guys are better. I think Casey's better.
I think we have a great core of quarterbacks to where if any type of travesty happened,
Go
then we
back
had
to
to put
year
another
one
quarterback
of
in.
Venables and think about that. You had just DG. The rest of them just weren't ready.
Yeah. We learned from our lesson, man. We went into the portal and we got a backup experienced quarterback. We went and got backup experienced running backs. We went in there and got Deion Burks, an experienced receiver. We went in there and got Dominic Williams and everything, and experienced. Brent Venables is doing what it takes and everything to put us in a position.
Yeah.
In a position to be there in the end. I'm just telling you the truth, man. From what I saw Friday, this defense was doing something that I've never seen them do. They were flying around the ball. They were trying to strip the ball. They wanted the football every single time.
I'll put it to you this way, and then we'll end it on this. Think about their last national championship. The score was 13-2. Mm-hmm. I'm going to say this one more time. 13-2. When you can win a game 13-2 again, then you'll be able to win a national championship.
And also
when you're that good, because we know that averaging 50 hasn't gotten it done yet. 13 points has.
We'll be all right.
It's okay that there are expectations at Oklahoma, and I know that people really want to see a natty coming. I'm telling you, it's coming.
Yeah.
The defense will be what delivers it. And you know what? Jackson is way good enough. So is Michael Hawkins. And I would even tell you that with this defense, as much as you've probably heard me say that I don't think Casey's the guy, he's good enough too. Because this defense is that good. A year from now, it may even be better. I'm telling you guys, if Jackson wasn't good, I'm getting the signals from I'm seeing from this coaching staff that they don't care what grade you're in, what year you are. They're going to play the best. They're going to play the best player. Jaden Jackson. You're hearing about Michael Boganowski, Reggie Powers, Jaden Hardy. Listen, Eli Bowen is probably going to be playing quite a bit at corner this year.
Yeah.
The same with
Walker.
Jeremiah Newcomb, Bobby Newcomb's son. Another corner. Guys.
He's nice. He's
real nice. And he's another freshman. Folks, they don't care what year you are. Taylor Tatum, this is one of the comments that I agree with. I think he's the feature back 4 or 5 games in, probably. I just think he's that good. This is nothing against Javonte, nothing against Gavin. I just think he's that guy.
Well, here's my thing, man. They did a packet with Tatum and Barnes in the backfield at the same time.
Yeah. I liked that a lot.
That's when Deion Burks scored a touchdown across the middle of the end zone. He was wide open because they were concerned about Tatum and they're concerned about Barnes.
There's another one. They didn't even try to get Burks deep at all the other day.
No. They don't have to, Jason. They don't have to, man.
Context is key. Context is key. What were they trying to do?
Yeah.
It's the sky is not falling. And we're not going to know how really good this football team is for a while.
Yeah.
Pump the brakes and realize that if they're what we think they are, they're going to get better from week to week to week.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have no more injuries. You cannot do anything about injuries. You can't do anything about injuries. But if you're healthy enough, they'll get better from week to week, and they'll be a lot better in week 4 than they were in week 1. They'll be a lot better in week 8 than they were in week 4, and so on. If they're going to do it, it's going to be that way. Don't expect the finished product and relax a little bit. That we cannot push this any further, and it's not. These coaches know what they're doing.
Yeah.
A little context goes a long way. Coach Ricks, I appreciate you coming and joining me on this, man. We've been kind of talking about this a lot.
Oh, yeah, man. Like I said, this is what I love to do, man. And like I said, coming on here, man, and helping out, man, give my little 2 cents worth, man. It's all I love to do, man. So anytime
I'm always here. I really appreciated your because just talking about it with you, I was like, man, I don't understand where all this is coming from. And I do think, but I agree. I think it is. I mean, we've talked about it. It is a PTSD thing, and Coop said it before on his show a little bit, that I think that you just get kind of complacent. And even if you put it in a different way, you're getting conditioned to know that this is how you have to do it. This is the way it's been. This is where success has come from at Oklahoma for this amount of time. So this is what you expect out of it. You don't have to have that same exact thing anymore. Again, I tell you that I feel like they're not going to be a whole lot different offensively. They're just not.
I'm gonna give you a new word. Go. I'm gonna give you a new word. You said recondition, and everything. I'm gonna give you a word. We need to be reprogrammed.
Reprogrammed. Yes.
We need to be reprogrammed.
Wiring's a little off, man. It was wired for turbocharged offense, and you don't have to be that anymore. Again, I think that when you can win a 13-2 game again, you can win a national championship, and that's a fact, in my opinion.
But no, man, thank you for inviting me, man. I really appreciate it, man. Anytime you need me, man,
having you, man.
I'm always
You're
here.
welcome back anytime you'd like to come on. I enjoyed being on with you, and it was your cousin, right? The coach. What was his last name again?
Coach Walker. He's Josh
Coach Walker. You guys, again, get over there and check out Coach's Talk. He does some amazing content, and I mean, I'm just loving it. But we want to make sure that we can get some of his subs up and get him some more views. He talks a lot of Oklahoma football, pragmatic. He's always got a good stuff to say. You can welcome on my show at any time, Coach Ricks. I appreciate you a lot. No problem. And guys, thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us on this episode. I will see you tomorrow morning on Rise and Shine College Football as well. As always, throw them horns down.
You know I got to do that, man.
Boomer Sooner, we will see you all on the next one.
Man.